Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is Butch Shorak, Options University. It is Monday, December 10th, 2012, and welcome aboard. Access to this webinar and video is for educational and informational purposes only. Nothing contained in this video, website, or promotional material constitutes a promotion, recommendation, solicitation, or offer of any particular investment, security, or transaction. Options University provides educational services that are meant to teach you the risks and rewards of trading stocks and options, and we are not a service that tells you what to trade. We are not implying or guaranteeing any profit, and as always, do not trade with money that you cannot afford to lose. Looking at the indexes for this past week, we see we had a rather mixed market. By that I mean that some of the indexes were up, some of the indexes were down, like in the NASDAQ, like in Apple. And we see that we got different numbers for different indices. All right, so taking a look at that, we see the Dow was up 1% for the week, up 129 points. NASDAQ down minus 1%. And we saw that the S&P basically was flat. Russell basically was flat. And what we're primarily looking at is that we had a drop in U.S. manufacturing and ADP employment earlier in the week. And then as we got to the end of the week, we had bullish U.S. jobless claims, and U.S. non-manufacturing index was up. So it was a bit of a mixed market for the week as we sit on this fiscal cliff. All right, let's take a look at the individual indices, and let's talk about what economic announcements are coming for the next week. As we look at Monday, December 10th, we see we have very little going on, and we see, oh, look at this, the week of the FOMC meeting. It begins on Tuesday. What will the FOMC bring out of its book? Is it all done? Does it have anything left to bring out? International trade comes out at 8:30 in the morning on Tuesday prior to the market opening. And then we see import and export prices on Wednesday, and we have that all-important FOMC meeting announcement coming out at 12:30. This definitely can move the market. Don't expect a lot out of it at this particular time. What more are they going to do at this point? They've already begun QE3. On Thursday, we go into jobless claims, PPI, certainly big numbers in retail sales, things that we can look at. And as we look at Friday, we got CPI and we got industrial production all taking place before the market opens. So as we look at the week of economic announcements, we have things that certainly can move the market, but what we're really with basically some kind of bullish undertone to the market, except for Apple. We see that the market is just kind of hanging out, waiting to see if we can get any cooperation whatsoever out of our lawmakers in the White House. And we know that Obama's headed for a $4 million trip to celebrate what's taking place and taking, I think, 20 days in Hawaii. It sounds like a wonderful trip for our president after he had this tough election. Finally, looking at the SPX, let's take a look at the individual indices, and we see that for the last 3 days of the week, we were in an up cycle in a sideways trending market as we're trading above the 30-day moving average, below the 30-day moving average, and as we look at this yellow zone right here, we see we've been going sideways for the last couple weeks as we hit into the fourth quarter. Now, the fourth quarter should be the biggest quarter of the year, but that definitely doesn't seem to be the case as we're waiting to see, is a country going to fall off the fiscal cliff, or are the people we elected going to actually step up and get this taken care of? Now, let's take a look at a little closer look, but overall, the trend is sideways trend, with currently in an upcycle getting near resistance, which is the top of that yellow line there. So with that, let's take a look and see what the week held for us. As we began the week with rather poor announcements coming out of some of our economic announcements, and we saw we had a down day on Monday, down day on Tuesday, kind of flattened out on Wednesday, and then we went into an upcycle as we got towards the end of the week, got better announcements, and we showed the S&P when the week was all said and done was basically flat for the week. Now let's take a look at some of the other indexes. Looking at the Dow, we see that looking at the week, had a nice week, banging on that 50-day moving average as we see it moving up in an up cycle, basically leading the markets up for the week as we saw the Dow making nice moves for the week, and those companies showing a little bit of strength relative to the other markets. Looking at the NASDAQ, ooh, Apple hurts. All right, so what are we in? We're in an upcycle. We got a higher high and a higher low on Friday, but basically the market is in a downtrend, having a very difficult time breaking above 30 and 50-day moving average. Well, actually, it's above the 30, having a difficult time breaking above this 50-day moving average, as we're not seeing a great deal of movement out of the Apple-led NASDAQ. Looking at the Russell 2000, which was certainly flat for the week, let's take a look at that, and we see that it basically went sideways. This is the time of the year where the Russell should be showing relative strength, the overall market, and certainly after the first of the year, but showing us no great movement for the week as we are in finished the first week in December. Looking at the VIX, what kind of fear do we have in the market? Zippo, none, no fear. We're right between our 15 and our 20, and we're near the low end of that range, so no great fear in the market as we move forward. Next, let's take a look at some of our other sectors. We're going to take a look at the bond market, looking at the TLT, which is our ETF that we look at every week. And look at, there we are, following the overall market, just going sideways, just waiting to see what happens with Washington. Next, we're going to take a look at the financials, showing nice little strength, actually showing more relative strength than any other part of the market. As we see, it's above the 50, above the 30, and above the 200, moving up, trying to get up into that higher zone where it was earlier in this quarter. Okay, next, let's take a look at oil. Where has oil been? What's it been doing? How's it reacting to all of this news out of the U.S.? Nothing. It's been in this same range for almost a couple months. So just absolutely going nowhere. Oil on the lower end of its range. And then that safety haven where we might see some money start to head if we see some fear coming into the market because of the fiscal cliff. And taking a look at gold, we see that it is near the lower end of its range as it's just kind of putzing around here, not near its previous highs in any way, shape, or form. All right, what kind of volume did we have this week? Well, let's take a look at the spider, see what kind of volume we had. Basically, if we look at those 5 days, there looks at the chart, down at the beginning of the week, up at the end of the week, and what kind of volume? Basically, pretty flat average volume in the SPY. So, market just sitting there, not going anyplace, not moving, not showing us anything, and just kind of sitting and waiting. Plenty of economic announcements coming in the next week, and we'll see whether they affect this market and get this thing moving. Will there be a Christmas rally or not? Only time is going to answer that. So let's, for those of you that are gold members, stick around. We've got our stocks to watch, and it's certainly been a rather boring week in the market, and the traders are not all that happy with the amount of movement, but it is what it is. So for those of you that are gold members, we'll continue to with our list of stocks to watch. And for those of you that are not, for more free videos, if you'd like, go to www.optionsuniversity.com/free gold. With that, this is Butch Shorak, Options University. It's Monday, December 10th, 2012. Thank you for being here. And to our gold members, welcome back. Let's take a look at the SPX, see where we expect it to go in the next week. All right, so as we can see, we see that we are sitting here currently at 1418.07. We got support right underneath us at this 1417 level, and our next target up there is up around that 1431 up there. Before we do that, we have to go through this previous high that's sitting there right around 422 or so. So expectations are, it wouldn't surprise me at all to see us get a higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, and then stall out unless we have some big news this week that comes through real positive. We may just continue on this same level for the next week or so. as we're waiting to see some application of congressional approval on our fiscal cliff. All right, let's take a look at some of our favorite stocks, see what they've done during the last week. As we look at Amazon, we're looking about a stock that really has outperformed the overall market. We see that we're well above the 50-day moving average, well above the 30-day moving average, and you see that as we're going sideways, the market has gone sideways, but it's at a totally different level than most everything we see. If you get a breakout on this, with any kind of volume whatsoever, it's time to get in this stock if you're not already in it. Put your current stop if you're a short-term trader right underneath this sideways level here. And we see Amazon just showing good relative strength. Move from that 200-day moving average around the middle of November and just has done nothing go up since. It's Amazon, which certainly has shown us the way on as a market leader. Now let's take a look at Apple, and we see, are the glory days of Apple over? Sitting below the 30, below the 50, below the 200, below everything, and having a difficult time. We did get a higher high, higher low on Friday, but certainly no great movement in this as we gapped up at the open, and then you see it sold off, and we could be headed for this next level, which we got on right around November 16th. So 16th, 17th, whatever this big volume day is here. So we may go down and retest that, and then Apple could be headed to 500 in my opinion. And then, of course, I would expect us to see some buyers come in and, again, work Apple up to some of its previous levels. All right, next take a look at AutoZone. We see that it had earnings. It's no longer the stock it was, and look at that. Sell off, trading at the bottom of its range. Had a higher high, higher low. No, it did not on Friday. Actually, it just kind of stopped the downward movement. And so we're either looking for a breakout to the outside for this stock to continue in its current trend where it trades within this zone level, or we see this thing break down below that 355 level, then it is time to short AutoZone. All right, let's take a next look at CMG. Looking at CMG, we see there we are going no place fast. It continues in that same manner. Utilize your strategies, favorite option strategies, where you have a stock that goes nowhere, and take advantage of theta and time decay on CMG. Next, looking at Google, we see a stock also that is not moving the way it used to move. And as the market went up this week, this stock didn't go any place whatsoever. Look for a breakdown below that level, and we could very likely go down and retest some of those previous levels that we've had before at this 200-day moving average. Okay, so Google not moving, not showing any market leadership at this point. All right, and then we look at another company that had great earnings. Things were really good for this company, and it's GMCR, Green Mountain Coffee. And if we see this thing reverse and start getting higher highs, higher lows, maybe time to get on this bandwagon, as we see that this is a stock that they obviously were very happy with as it announced whatever earnings that it put out. Next, looking at a medical equipment company, ISRG, let's take a look at that, and we see that earnings were back quite some time ago. Earnings were well received. This stock showed good relative strength, but it is not performing anymore. Look at that. It's getting lower highs and lower lows. So ISRG trying to go down. It had already filled the gap after earnings, so that isn't an issue. It's just not bouncing to the upside the way one might expect for a company that had what was well-respected earnings. Next, looking at MasterCard, one of those companies with the QE3. It understands that it could go higher, and when you get higher highs and higher lows, maybe looking for a bounce off of this, or you may see this come down to the 30-day moving average. Notice that we got the 30 over the 50 over the 200, one of the few really bullish patterns that we have left amongst our favorite stocks. Now looking at McDonald's, we see that since it started its move up with this big reversal signal there with that doji, we see that it has just continued on up and moving up towards that 200-day moving average. When it hits that 200-day moving average, look for some kind of pullback to see if it continues going up further. Next, we'll take a look at Nike, which finally broke out of its trading range, and we see that it did it in the last couple weeks, and now it again did exactly what I was just talking about. Went up to that 200-day moving average, pulled back, and looks like it's ready to break. There's another hammer, which gave you another buy signal. So the stock moving up, looking for 100. Next, as Nike is just doing it. Then take a look at Priceline. Priceline is a market leader. Look at this. Earnings. Did they like earnings? You bet they did. Did they have a gap up? You bet they did. And it pulled back to that moving average, and then ever since then it has just been going up, higher, and now we're going sideways with the last few days. Look for a breakout above this level, and will be another buy signal with Priceline. By the way, look for some volume when you see that breakout. And then finally, WW Granger, going nowhere, trading within this zone, pretty tight in here, and not showing us any great strength whatsoever anymore. And it just lost it at earnings after having many quarters where it just kept right on running. So the stocks that were our big runners prior to this are showing us very little in the market, as there's very little going on in the market, and it's difficult to pull money out of a sideways trending market. And plus, you've got news coming this week. You got news coming from the fiscal cliff, and it is times of uncertainty in the market like this that can sometimes take your money away. So be cautious. Watch your trade size and utilize your stops. And with that thought in mind, this is Butch Shorak. It's Options University. It's Monday, December 10th, 2012, and thank you for being here.